Hello, friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where we're looking at something that is a recent acquisition but an old figure, because that's how I do things. I have missed out on so much. Anyway, Henkei Megatron. This, for the, maybe two other people in the world other than myself who aren't aware, this is the Japanese version of Classics Megatron. And Classics Megatron was basically, I think it was one of the first iterations since they moved away from it where Megatron came back as a gun. Because after the G1 toy, then it was like all tanks and stuff, which, totally understandable. But yeah, Classics Megatron looked more like a Nerf gun in that it was like this neon green and purple and orange kind of thing going on, and I wasn't super into that look, but Henkei Megatron definitely looks awesome. There is also the United version of this, which has an even more G1 accurate paint scheme, but I was kind of looking at the two, and it's like, Henkei was cheaper, and also I kind of liked how this took a few extra liberties with the paint job, so it was sort of like G1-ish, but not a slavish G1 reproduction, which I'm getting kind of sick of that. So yeah, I like that this is sort of like almost G1 plus in the design aspects. Anyway, yes, Henkei Megatron is, as you can see, a gun, and a pretty cool looking one too. It definitely has like a Nerf gun vibe, but in these colors, it actually kind of seems like something you'd see out of like Judge Dredd or RoboCop or something. It's a little bit on the tiny side in my hands, but I can still click the trigger mechanism, but I have to kind of hold it like this, which is a little awkward. There's some very noticeable differences in color, where you've got the nice silver in the main section here, and then around here it's sort of like a dull, almost slightly yellowed looking gray, and I don't know if this, I tried looking up photos to see if maybe I got one that's been discolored, and I just can't tell, because this gray is far off from the silver regardless. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if mine is discolored. I don't know if that's just how the toy comes. That's just where we're at. But anyway, the discoloration, or not discoloration, but the color mismatch doesn't bother me too much because it still gets the job done. Though I do kind of want to go in here at some point in the future, maybe, and add some silver to the gray bits to kind of tie everything together a little bit better. But yeah, other than that, very cool. I like the beefiness of it, or chunkiness of like the main body section of the gun. There is some significant chrome wear up here on both sides. The sight is supposed to have a chrome purple Decepticon logo there, but it is completely rubbed off. I don't really care. And from the other side, you can see it's, same deal. The thing that bugs me about this, and this is the construction of the figure, this isn't this particular version or anything like that, it's just how the figure is made, is that if you're looking at it from this side in gun mode, you've got screws along here, but along here it's clean. And if you turn it over, along here it's clean, but you've got the screws along here. I just kind of wish that they had set it up so that all of the screws were facing one side in gun mode. It doesn't ruin the figure for me, it just kind of disappoints me, but I don't know what else to say about this thing. It's a gun, it looks cool. I like how the cylinder is a little bit translucent. I've actually been also thinking of painting the inside of the shell, these parts that are actually see-through completely, I want to leave alone, but I was thinking of painting the inside of the shell, and we'll see why in robot mode. But yeah, it's fun. It's a cool little Nerf kind of quality Megatron gun. I like how, due to the colors, like the silver, black, and red, it is definitively, you can look at this and know it's a Megatron, but it's not standard Megatron. It's more of like a beefy, futuristic-looking gun. Yeah, I don't know, that's cool. I really enjoy this toy. Anyway, let's move on to size comparisons, because I don't really have much else to say about the gun. Here he is in gun mode with a standard size deluxe, and I didn't transform downshift because I don't really think a car is going to scale with a gun anyway, so just kind of leaving it as is. And as always, here he is with the duck tank. So with all of that taken care of, let's turn this into a robot. And I actually really enjoy this transformation. It's crazy, but I enjoy it a lot. Actually, I guess to kick things off, I won't speed it up just yet, just because I want to talk about this. I love how the bulk of the alt mode is just shell, and the rest of it is like this completely absurd, surrealist, cubist looking, like just completely contorted robot in there. It's so goofy. I mean, yes, this is definitely some serious shell forming going on here, but I still think this is hilarious in a way that I actually really enjoy. Alright, robot mode. And here we have Henkei Megatron in robot mode, and here the off color of the gray bits is even more obvious. As I already said, I don't know if this is just mine or if this is like the way it works with this figure, but I definitely want to add some more silver to some other parts of this guy, because right now it's just looking like he's wearing some kind of fancy vest. Okay, well now I have an insistent cat on my lap, so we'll see how this goes from here, but yeah. Aside from the off-color of the arms and thighs and head, I really, really like this version of Megatron. I know there are definitely issues that people have with it, and I could completely understand why people would have those issues. Like the fact that his fusion cannon is actually underslung on his forearm rather than attached to the side. And, of course, the wings. These big gun shells just hanging off of his back. Neither of those things really bothers me, because again, as I said, I sort of consider this like, I feel like it's a G1 homage, but it's still trying to do its own thing. Kind of like some of the stuff we get from third parties, where they obviously are going after a certain character, a certain toy, what have you, but they're definitely putting their own kind of personal spin on it. That's what this is to me. I definitely prefer to have his forearms turned so that they're facing, normally. And there you can see more of the underslungness there. And I know people don't like that. And when you try to get him to pose like he's shooting at something, it doesn't look quite right for Megatron. If you want it to be more like typical Megatron, I'm shooting at something pose, then his fist is upside down. And I do understand that complaint. However, in my mind, this is fine. While this guy definitely has his quirks, I actually think he looks amazing, because when you pose him, like even just a little bit, if you pose him, he looks awesome. He does look awkward and a little bit silly, especially with the little back wings when he's just standing stock still. But once you get him into any kind of pose, whether it's a more dynamic action pose or like a standing there looking sinister pose, he looks like some kind of angel of death who's like, he's just about to dispense some, death. I mean, I don't think people hate this figure, but a lot of the issues that people have are things that, as I said, just are non-issues for me because of, I guess, just my mindset. I don't know. I dig the asymmetry of it. Actually, let me get him into a little bit more of a normal pose here so we can move on with things. Okay. I dig the asymmetry here. You can probably see me struggling with a cat on my lap and the chrome on his chest. But I like how he's got the hammer on one shoulder and the barrel, or whatever, muzzle, I don't know gun terms, on his other shoulder. Obviously, he's got the imbalance of the giant fusion cannon on one arm and nothing on the other arm. But it works, and it also does a pretty good job of, as I said, kind of homaging the G1 figure, where you've got the G1 character, where you've got the darker kind of black shins, gray throughout, that black and red. But then they also mix it up a bit more with like red accents in different areas and yellow bits here and there. It's really cool. And aside from the off-colored gray for the shoulders and forearms and thighs and head, I always forget, it's kind of a fantastic color scheme. And here's kind of also where you can see what I was talking about when I mentioned that I wanted to paint the insides of the shell. Because I feel like if I could paint the insides here, give them like a different color than the silver, but keep the actual see-through bits see-through, of course. I feel like that would actually go even further to give it that kind of wing look, where it would stop looking as much like kibble and look more like intentional wings. Now, starting from the bottom, you can see that there's some nice detailing on this guy as well. I like the kind of red that's underneath the shin plates that slide up to kind of change the profile of the legs a little bit. And also that yellow. It's just a nice little accent. Got some chrome on the kneecaps. A little bit of black in the thighs. Could probably use a little bit more color in there. Maybe some silver or yellow. And then, of course, the black and yellow for the waist. Red for the midsection. I do like that they got black in the vents there, but I feel like could also, again, use more colors throughout the rest of them to kind of tie everything together. Also, again, it looks like he's wearing a fancy vest. I don't really like that. I kind of wish that either they had left the torso gray or had maybe brought some of that silver into the arms, but oh well. I also dig the kind of, looks like it could be exposed wiring, though I'm sure it's not, in the shoulders there. And some nice detailing on the forearms. Kind of like the venting on this one, where it almost makes it seem like maybe after firing the fusion cannon, that's where the excess heat would come out. And yes, big chunkin' wings that you can't really do anything with. I know there's a mod to remove them, but as I said, I think they're actually pretty darn cool once you get them into any kind of even remotely dynamic or better than stock still pose. I'm not super into the head. Like, it is evocative of Megatron, but there's something about the shape that just seems a little off to me. I think some of it is like the helmet bit looks too big. I feel like it needs to be, either the face needs to be bigger or the helmet needs to be a little smaller. The face itself is fine, though you do kind of lose some of the molded detail because of that silver. It just kind of blends in, but not bad. Gave him red eyes, that works. Trying to do all this one-handed because I've got a cat that I've got to hold up in my lap is not, it's not easy. Okay, so we'll get him standing stock straight and uninteresting just for the sake of size comparisons. So here he is with a standard deluxe, and yeah, he's a pretty sizable robot. He's, I guess this is what was originally considered Voyager-ish class back in the day. I don't know. I don't remember what size classes used to be called. He's, not small, even with the giant shell on his back. If you ignore that completely, he's still a pretty sizable and still chunky robot. And here he is with the duck tank. At this point, I'm just going to be retreading old ground by saying all this, but I do think this guy is great. Like, he's definitely got some issues, some quirks, call them what you will, but I love messing with him. I actually really like the transformation. And again, like, you get him in any kind of pose that's different than like the kind of stock straight, and he looks great. He looks like he's ready to dispense some pain. He looks threatening. He looks like a proper Megatron. So with just minimal tweaking to his posing, it's fantastic. And again, as I said, yes, I understand the complaints of the underslung fusion cannon and the wings on the back, but it could be because I'm coming at this figure several years after the fact, and by now we're all kind of burned out on G1 again. But I do really love how this is like, it's G1, but it's not. So all the stuff that's wrong is, in my mind, a feature and not a bug. It's stuff that helps to differentiate it a little bit, and it doesn't mess with the figure at all. Worst case scenario, the wings sometimes get in the way of the fusion cannon because that thing sticks out so far. Not too much of a problem. Anyhow, I think that is going to do it for Henkei Megatron. As I said, I freaking love this. When I first got him, I transformed him back and forth so much because there's just something about that completely bonkers, completely ripping apart the robot and putting it in like this weird jigsaw pattern and then just clamping the shell around it to turn it back into a gun. I love that. What do you all think of this guy? Do you have or are you familiar with Classics, Henkei, or United Megatron out of this mold? Of those three, which is your preferred color scheme? Because I've already said mine. And also, what are your thoughts on this figure in general? Because I know that, it seems, I don't want to say divisive, because it seems like overall the consensus seems to be that this is a good figure. But as I said, there are people who have immense issues with the wings and the placement of the fusion cannon. And I'm also curious for anyone who either owns Henkei Megatron or knows of Henkei Megatron and is familiar with it. Is the plastic on mine discolored, or is that just how it is? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. And remember, art is more than meets the eye.